Hello, welcome to Walsall United WFC.
Good evening and welcome to All United WFC with me, Matt Crane. Slight change of lineup this evening. Not the usual Monday crowd, but we still have two brilliant guests joining me as well. And we send our best wishes to John. He's still got no voice, so he's on vocal rest at the minute for a week. But I am joined by Andy. Andy, how are you doing?
Not too bad. I'm good. It's I'll throw me because I'm only on a Friday, so it'll feel like Friday now. And I never thought I'd miss those dulcet West Midlands tones of John, but yeah, get well soon, mate.
I mean, I can put the accent on if you like. I can't. Right. No, do you know what? It's thrown me because I'm used to a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Asking to jump in on a Monday as host as well, it's slightly thrown me. But
tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Shahan as well. It's nice to have you back. I know you appeared on my Tuesday show as well. But how are you doing?
Good evening, Matt. Good evening, Andy. Yes, I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks for having me on back again, once again this season. And yeah, I look forward to discussing Bristol City and hopefully a few things I may know about Man U, mainly based from what I've seen.
Yeah,
on TV, and I probably won't know as much as you guys.
All right.
Yeah, so tonight's show then, as you briefly mentioned there, we'll talk Man United, we'll talk Bristol City. Former Ed, Amy Palmer, is now the Bristol captain. Fran Bentley on loan. Andy, you'll obviously go into a little bit about the weekend, because I know there's a few of you going down to Bristol to watch, obviously, both teams, plus Sheffield United's Tara Bourne as well, who's also on loan. So yeah, we'll see where the night takes us. Good evening as well to everybody in the comments, and thank you for tuning in. Do you know what? We'll start with Bristol, I think. Shahan, if I let you sort of talk about your season so far, and then we'll get onto the two players mentioned, just sort of how Bristol are doing and sort of, is it where you hoped and things like that?
So, of course, this season, it's Bristol City's first time back in the Championship. They haven't been in this league since like 5 years ago, back when it was WSL2. And one difference between 5 years ago and now is that, unlike then, Bristol City only went up a second place when there was 2 promotion spots. But this year, as well as last year, there's only been 1 promotion spot. And this season, I think it's been more of a competitive season. Whereas I think in the WSL, I think myself and others mentioned on the Bristol City Vixencast, which is the podcast that I co-host, as well as other commentators on the WSL mentioned that there's like mini leagues within our league, and like the title contenders at the top, and then like the teams fighting in the middle, and then the relegation scraps at the bottom. Whereas in the Championship, it's really open. Currently, Bristol City a ninth in the table with 2 wins, a draw, and we've lost 3 games. But again, in the Championship, every team can take points off each other, and so like the top of the table keeps changing like every single week. Because a few weeks ago it was Sheffield United, I think, who were top at 1 point, and then Sunderland, I think, were top as well. And then both, and now at the moment it's Durham, who were like.
We have a few words on Durham, don't worry.
Oh yeah, of course, because of the Conti Cup game. But
and they don't like us.
And, speaking of the Conti Cup, of course, our last game before the international break, we actually beat Reading in the last minute of a stoppage time, which was a huge surprise. But yeah, of course, City are back, and the Championship is back this weekend. Of course, City are home to Sheffield United, 3 p.m. kickoff. I think it should be able to stream live on Robin's TV, which is the Bristol City video service. So it'll be available on YouTube and Facebook. And yes, to my surprise, when I was invited to the show, I was informed that a few of you Manchester United supporters are coming down to Bristol to watch the game. And I'm thinking,
why?
First of all, I thought aren't United playing, and I realised the WSL is still on break for another week.
Yeah.
And then the first message that I got was from, of course, your friend and co-host Natalie, who's not here tonight. And I was aware that, of course, she kind of followed Sheffield United. Of course, was good friends with Rich Daverty and former Sheffield United manager Carla Ward. So I assumed there had been something to do with that. And of course, I remembered, as she pointed out to me, that, of course, there's a few ex or United players on loan as well as former United players playing in both teams this Sunday. So I see that's why. But of course, if none of you've been to Bristol before, I do recommend going to making the weekend out of it if you can. There's so much to do. It's not worth coming. It's great that you're coming down for the game, but yeah, if you have more time, I'd suggest like make the day or weekend of it if you can.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've not actually been to Bristol because I wasn't. I mean, when they went away once, it was. I mean, did it get cancelled because of WS because of the COVID situation? I think we've been there maybe once, possibly. I can't remember as a group, but.
So, from my knowledge, so Bristol City have only ever played Man U at East Sports Village.
Yeah,
once.
there was a return journey gonna be COVID. It got curtailed.
Oh yeah, the game at Ashton Gate.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think the away game was the game where Ebony Salmon scored the winner. Got the winner, and yeah, that was a game which I didn't feel like going up to because.
It was after Christmas, wasn't it? I remember now. We played at Disney and you guys did. And quite interestingly, we'll probably get into this. It was when Sophie Bagley was with yourselves, wasn't it? And she did that great bit of gamesmanship where she just took about half an hour to take a goal kick, and now she's one of us. So we're trying to get her to sort that out for us a few times. I remember it now. It's all coming back to me.
Yeah, I think we mentioned at the time. I think it was sort of like cheeky time wasting, and so I've just seen the comment from John asking if there's any good chicken places. Yeah, I mean Bristol's known for its wide range of independent places and big corporate places like Nando's and Five Guys and if they do chicken. But yeah, Bristol's not quite famous for its chicken, but it's famous for other things. But
I was going to ask, obviously, because I say we've obviously kept a little eye on yourselves, but obviously being in a different league, it's a bit different. I noticed that you've got a new manager now. Obviously, Tanya Oxtoby's moved on, and Matt Beard moved on, obviously, didn't he as well? How is she doing? And are you guys expecting to go up this season, or is it like a proper rebuilding year? I mean, how many players have you kept?
So I think with the manager head coach situation, I feel looking back, I think the club could have handled it a little bit differently because when Matt Beard was initially the head coach, it was only for like the last half of last season as maternity cover for Tanya Oxtoby, because that's why she left the club, to go have a baby, and of course, like pretty much as soon as last season ended, a few days later, Matt Beard was announced as the new Liverpool manager, and I would have assumed had he been offered a longer contract or longer terms, he probably would have stayed, over the summer. And of course, Tanya Oxtoby was due to come back, or that's what I assumed, but then she didn't. And then Lauren Smith, who was previously with the club for over 7 years in various different roles, and more recently assistant head coach at Spurs, and then returned to the club on a 12-month contract, maternity cover. And then Tanya announced, like, she's leaving to apparently spend more time with her family, but then ended up at Chelsea like a week later. So, and since the good run of form, Lauren Smith has now been offered the role on a 3-year basis. So I think that's a good thing to see in the long term. And I think to answer your other question about the return to the WSL, I don't think it's going to happen this season. I think there's other teams, like, again, it's such an open field, like, and it's a shame there's only one promotion spot. And looking at the top two, like it's either at the moment it's Durham and Liverpool, and I mean there's other teams.
Our two favourite side dishes.
Yeah, actually I don't know if I should mention the L word. After what happened with your men's team yesterday.
Oh, careful! Everybody's in mourning up here. Honestly, I'm a bit of a quirky one because I don't really follow the men, so I'm kind of a bit immune to it. But I was walking around like somebody had died this morning at work. Trust me. So, we'll let you have that one for free. Don't worry.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I support the Bristol City men's team, and our home form has been we haven't won a game at home since January this year.
It's all right. Yeah.
It's interesting though, because I'm just thinking. Obviously, you mentioned Andy there about Tanya, but what's the feeling then amongst sort of Bristol fans on that? Because obviously, you mentioned she wanted to spend time with her family, and then all of a sudden she ends up at Chelsea, presumably on more money. Does that feel maybe a little bit like a stab in the back? Maybe surely she could have come out and said, "Do you know what? It's time for a new chapter. I wish Bristol all the best and move on." But what's the general feeling sort of towards her then?
Oh, I think in my opinion, again, if there is more money on offer, then I'm guessing that would make sense. Of course, she's got like a family to support now, and her partner, Alice Kemsky, or if that's her name, as far as I'm aware, I think she plays for Cheltenham Town Ladies, who obviously aren't much lower down in the football pyramid, so probably will have like another job to work on as well. But I don't actually know whether Tanya is still living in Bristol with her partner and son, or whether they've all moved up to London. But even before she left on maternity leave, I think there was a growing frustration amongst certain City fans, thinking, why is the club not making a change? And of course, as we eventually found out, she was pregnant, and then of course had to go on maternity leave. And I'm guessing there would be like various legal and ethical issues if you fire someone while they're pregnant. Not because they are pregnant, but yeah, I think it
gets
just
messy.
Yeah, it would look bad from a PR point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though, because you said there about obviously the championship, and like you mentioned, anyone can beat anyone. But I think something that shocked me was obviously you mentioned sort of Bristol down in 9th, but I think I look at the results and I think you went away to Liverpool and you got a draw, which in my view was a good draw to get something out of that. Obviously, you played Lewis and you beat them, and Lewis, they sort of, for me, they're one of them tricky sides. They've had a little bit of a slow start, but they've slowly sort of found a way and come back into their own. Obviously, you beat Sunderland as well, who were absolutely flying. And the first game of the season, I think, barring maybe one or two goals that could have been prevented, 4-3 against Palace was unexpected. But it for me, it's been really interesting because looking at it from an outsider's point of view, you've had some good results. But yeah,
Sorry,
I was just going to say, do you want to talk to me a little bit sort of on that then, and maybe how that could help or whatnot going forward?
Sure thing. So I think the first game, which I wasn't able to watch because I was busy at a friend's engagement party. But yeah, it was a really crazy game, according to my co-hosts, DM and Nat, who actually went up to the game. And yeah, it was just weird how, City conceded a penalty after like 20 seconds, and it was just like a massive free-for-all. And like, I think the Palace goalkeeper had a couple of howlers, which led to some of the City goals. But I think since then the team have like really started to gel and focus, because this summer, of course, a lot of the players have left, since the relegation, and various contracts have expired, and there's been just as many new arrivals in the squad. And the only players that were actually still at the club that were here last season or before that, of course, are Amy Palmer, Abby Harrison, Flo Allen, and Jess Willie, and a couple of the academy players have now turned pro this season. So I think the players that we born are now starting to settle in, or have settled in more than they have before. And of course, like there's a lot of various experience across that they have. A couple of players, Fran Bentley and the Cataldo, formerly of Leicester, of course, Amy Palmer, when they were in the championship last, were all with teams that won the title. So it would be interesting to see whether they can use that mentality and that experience within the team as well.
Yeah, so just obviously John's comments are on there as well. I think you mentioned it earlier. I mean, I just want to echo what you're saying. I think it's a great, it's a very interesting league. It's very, exciting league, and I think it's a no-brainer. I don't understand why it's 1 up, 1 down from the championship. I think you could at least do 2 up, 2 down. I think the WSL could do its proverbial getting kicked a little bit, because to be honest, it can be a little bit, especially if one team looks like they're definitely going down. I think there's not that sort of impetus to put the money in to keep the others going up. You're thinking, probably Birmingham this year, Birmingham's going down, and like your sort of next level up and not really as bothered putting the money in. So I personally would think it's definitely got enough quality to have at least 2 up, 2 down, going into that, or maybe even going the other way. Obviously, we were discussing yesterday, Matt, as well, weren't we? The Tier 3 North, the National League North, National League South, winners of both their leagues have to play each other to go up to the Championship. I don't understand why you can't have them, obviously both go up together and have 2 down as well. So just throughout the pyramid, really. But obviously, we'll obviously get into the United players probably in a bit, but it might give you an idea about maybe why we're coming down, because United as a club, both on the men's and the women's side, have always valued the youth. I remember, I think it's been almost like a ridiculous number of years. I won't even say even 100 years, maybe even less, where there's been an academy player, at least on the bench on the men's side. And it's just a solid ethos with United fans in United as a club. So, we kind of like the idea of seeing, well, who's next, who's going to be our homegrown sort of players. So before we go into ours, I suppose you mentioned a couple of academy players have gone pro. Have you got any more? Who are they, and should we keep an eye on them for Sunday?
Yes, of course. I'm just, you mentioned about Jones Con, which I'm now seeing on screen. Will I like to start seeing 2 up and 2 down? I like to see that as well as a league expansion, if it's for the right teams, of course. So I think I want to see the WSL at least expand to like 14 teams at least, and maybe even the championship have 14 teams as well. Like, and maybe have like in one season, or the first season, have no WSL relegation, and then have 2 join, get 2 promoted to the WSL. So it'll be 14 teams, and then whatever teams are left, whatever gaps are left in the championship, teams from the National League can apply. That's just my take on it, in my opinion, of course. And as back to your question, Andy, so the academy players that we have who turned pro, one is Izzy Cook. She just turned 19, and she had quite a run of injuries towards the second half of the last season, but she started starting really well and is very supportive in the attack. And the other academy players turned pro is Macy Collis, but she hasn't appeared in the game yet this season because she's still injured.
Okay, do you think we'll see Izzy this weekend, or is she more a bench player?
Well, I mean, I think, I don't know if it's like just a club thing or there's no update, but certain updates from the club aren't always the best when it comes to finding out when players are going to come back or not. Usually we just find out on the day. But there's a few academy players who are still in the team, like there's Naomi Lazelle, who was an academy player last year, and she's still an academy player this year because she's not 18 yet and hasn't turned pro. She hasn't featured in as many games, but one new academy player who has featured a lot this season is Brooke Aspen. She plays in along part of the defense, and she's only 16, and she's I think my co-host DM Rivers has said like they think that she's Brooke Aspen's one of the best players she's ever seen in the Bristol, I think. Very supportive, and gets the ball going, and hasn't scored a goal yet, but I think she only made one mistake, is when she made the same foul twice made 2 fouls back to back in the game against Liverpool, and she got sent off and had a 1-game ban. But it's something that she should hopefully learn from.
Yeah, it's interesting sort of talking about this, because obviously from when I've certainly known sort of Bristol City, they've always given youth a chance, whether it's been their own or whether it's been taking sort of development players from, other teams. And I think it's good to see. Obviously, it's a great model, sort of get these players, and then sometimes they sell them on and sometimes they stay, and, you get sort of 2-3 years out of them, which is great. But I think, you're on about sort of the team gelling before and it coming together. And I think, like you said, slowly but surely now we're starting to see that. Obviously, there's a nice, by the sounds of it, youth setup and things like that, but they've still got the experience. Think of Satara Murray, who was at Liverpool WSL before she returned stateside. You mentioned Leah Cataldo earlier. Obviously won the league as well with Leicester. But it's a nice mix, and obviously, it's sort of like you say, a rebuilding process. But I think we'll start with Fran Bentley. I think, obviously, on loan from Man United. Talk to us a little bit about sort of how Fran's performed, because I think from what I've seen a couple of clips on Twitter, and she looks to have been solid. Like, had some really good performances and made some good saves. And I think I read she might have been player of the match. It was either the Liverpool away game or a recent home game. But talk to me about sort of Fran's brought to Bristol City.
Yeah, so you're right there, Matt. So she won the FA Women's Championship Player of the Week Twitter poll, and that was for the game away at Liverpool, which was a 0-0 draw, and she made some really great saves, and she's made great saves throughout the game, throughout the season. Initially, when she came in, she was announced around the same time as Sophie Whitehouse, another free agent who was previously at Spurs and Birmingham last season. And when she came in, when both of them came in, none of us knew who the number 1 goalkeeper was going to be, because of course Sophie Bagley's now left to join United, and our number 2 goalkeeper last season, Benedict Haaland, went on to play. Has now joined Selfoss in Iceland. So Sophie Whitehouse only played in the pre-season game against Lewis, but then ever since the first league game against Crystal Palace, Fran Bentley was between the sticks, and I think performances like against the Liverpool game have now justified her being like the number 1 goalkeeper. Sophie Whitehouse did play in the cup game in the Connie Cup game against Reading a few weeks back. But yeah, I think Fran Benny is a great goalkeeper, and she was in the England under-23 squad today against Belgium, which also featured ex-City and Man United player Ebony Salmon as captain, which I was surprised about, and former Bristol City player Katie Robinson scored the winner. But she wasn't in goal for that game, Bentley, as far as I'm aware. I think it was Emily Ramsey, another United goalkeeper, out on loan at Birmingham. And of course, it makes sense to have the WSL goalkeeper start as opposed to the Championship goalkeeper. But yeah, I mean, I'm just amazed. Like United, that two of their goalkeepers out on loan, and then sign another one, because I would have seen, but I don't know what the decision behind that was. But
maybe we can help you with that a little bit tonight. I think because I'm a bit of, I mean, I think the problem from a United perspective, and the interesting thing is, and honestly, I think you're probably going to know more about Fran Bentley than we do, because obviously due to the fact that she was injured a lot of the time, she had that unfortunate injury. She broke her arm, did an arm injury, so we didn't really see her at all on our side. And I think at one point before COVID, we had about 17 goalkeepers, didn't we? So we kind of we like getting goalkeepers in. But no, I think from a United fan perspective, I think Mary. I mean, we were actually having debates on our pod, obviously on All for United Women, more about who was going to be number one, even during pre-season, because we saw Sophie Bagley and we saw that she was, clipping at Mary's heels, and she does look really good. But obviously, as the sort of season started, Mary got the nod, and obviously she's done really well, and she's now arguably going to be England's number one, hopefully, especially with Roebuck being injured. But I think you've sort of had Mary, and then if you sort of wind the clock back to last season, you have had Mary, Rambo, and Bentley. So you've sort of got solid number one. Then they won't upset people here, because there's a lot of people in our fan base that are very much rate Rambo, but in my opinion, nobody really pushing Mary at all. I think you would never really see a situation where if Mary was fit, that she would be on the bench and Rambo was, or another Rambo or Bentley would be number one. So in that space, I think for me, I almost see this season with obviously Fran at Bristol and Emily at Brum as a bit of a playoff for the third goalkeeper position with us. Really, I think one of them will probably get let go at the end of the season. I think that's pretty nailed on, and then you end up with a situation with a solid number one. Bagley, I've not been anything but impressed with her. I saw her when she was at Yeovil. She's got a never say die attitude, which I love. I think she got like goalkeeper of the season when Yeovil went down, and that's impressive considering obviously they were, where they were. She did great for you guys. As I said, I liked a little bit of her, gamesmanship she did even against us, that time when she was playing for you guys. And I think she's definitely probably the actual future. And then that just leaves you with a sort of third keeper. And to be honest, I wouldn't know. I've seen Rambo because obviously we went to Birmingham because she obviously played against us at St Andrews. But yeah, as I say, I think so. My question to move on a little bit would be, if you could, would you like to keep her, or are you just seeing it as a maybe next season kind of situation?
So while you're talking there, sorry, it's just come out in a group chat, and I looked up online as well, because you said Bagley played for Yeovil. As far as I'm aware, she's in there to play for Birmingham, Bristol City, and Man United.
Thought she did. Apologies for that. I've got it in my head.
I didn't want to argue, Andy. That's why I put it in that private chat, pal. It's all good.
But yeah, I would like to see Fran stay at Bristol City beyond the season. But of course, I know she signed a new contract with Man United, and then United loaned her out to get more experience, to get more game time. Of course, that's common for our football. A player signs a new contract and then goes out on loan to another club to get more experience. But again, it's interesting to see what's going to happen after the season. Realistically, whether the City is still going to be in the Championship, or whether there will be a WSL push or a promotion, because I think, if I recall, didn't Mary Ebbs join United until she didn't. She only joined just before the WSL season. You guys joined the WSL, because I think, wasn't it Shiv Chamberlain was your number one goalkeeper, and then had her baby, and then who was your goalkeeper when she was on maternity leave?
We had she went to Spurs for a bit, didn't she, as well?
Yeah, so we briefly had Aurora Mickelson as like backup, but Shiv played, and then we got Mary in to cover sort of that maternity leave. Because Mary coming in 2019, for the start of the WSL season, as Shiv was coming or supposed to come back in 2019. Yeah. But just to sort of add to this goalkeeping debate, I think it's like, I agree with you, Andy. I don't think really, probably lack of experience, that Bagley and Rambo were the ones to push Mary. Rambo and Bentley. Get everyone mixed up here. Yeah, Rambo and Bentley for me weren't the ones to push Mary. Bagley's now come in, and I think you've seen a better Mary. We saw what Sophie can bring to the team in Durham against the Conti Cup in that shootout, and I think she was fantastic. Everything we'd expect, and obviously we had you on, didn't we, in July, and you spoke about it because I think we'd first just signed her then, and I think for us now, that will be, the two fighting for that number one spot. And, Andy, you're spot on. I think for me, it's going to be between Emily or Bentley for, staying on as third choice. Whether they want that and whether they're happy with that, who knows? But I think Fran Bentley obviously played at Sheffield and she did really well there, and we loaned her out. So, I think she's still young. They're both still developing, but it's good, that she's like getting minutes at Bristol. And obviously, like we were talking about before, they do place the emphasis on youth, which is great. So it's good to hear.
And another thing about Fran Bentley, especially being at Bristol City, is that I don't know if it's a massive coincidence or not, but she also shares the name, or has a namesake of the main goalkeeper at Bristol City Men, who's called Dan Bentley. And there's a chance for him at Ashton Gate, and all the City fans saying "Ain't nobody like Dan Bentley," and I adapted that to "Ain't nobody like Fran Bentley." And it's now going across like the Women's High Performance Centre. So I feel privileged to have started that introduction or that chant for her. But I was going to ask something about the goalkeepers again.
I won't get it wrong this time, I promise.
But did Emily, when Birmingham played United a few weeks ago, wasn't Ramsey in goal for Birmingham? I thought lone players couldn't play against the
Yeah, we thought that as well, to be honest. I mean, to be honest, Birmingham was an interesting place for a whole heap of different reasons. But I think someone told me with permission of the parent club they could, but it wasn't like official. So I don't know if that's the case. It does feel a bit weird, especially as a goalkeeper, because you think if you're sort of host club, you might sort of let a few in, which obviously she clearly didn't do. But you know what I mean? So it's a bit of a weird position. I'd get it if you were an outfield player, maybe that you would sign it. But I don't know. I think if I was Birmingham's number 2, I'd probably, there's many things wrong with Brum, John. That's a 90-minute special sort of 5-parter to tell you what's wrong with Birmingham, trust me. Sorry, I lost my favorite thought. But yeah, if I was number 2 for Birmingham, I'd be really annoyed because, as you say, you would have expected her to play. But I mean, I haven't seen enough of Fran, but I'm assuming there must be a reason why we've kept her on, and that we just signed a new deal with us as well before they loaned them to yourselves, obviously. So I am looking forward to seeing her this weekend and seeing, obviously how she's doing for you guys, really.
Yeah, definitely. And again, she's one of the players that's away international duty. I'm not sure whether she'll be available for a thing that's happening this Wednesday. So this coming Wednesday, the club are hosting a open training session, mainly designed for those with families, because at the moment in Bristol, it's half term. So as many designs.
Same in Manchester, by the way.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
No, so I know it varies. I just thought like
fair enough. So it's going to be there's like a free session or a training session where supporters can attend, and I'm off work this week anyway because I need the time off. And me and my Vixencast co-hosts are going to be here tonight. We're planning on attending and seeing who's going to be there and whether there will be players away on international duty that will be there, because I think Fionn Morgan, who's in the Wales squad, Wales are playing in Cardiff on Tuesday night, so I'm not sure whether she's going to be at the training session on Wednesday, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, you're listening, Man United. That's another example of engagement of the players to the fans. I mean, we're hopeful, obviously, that we'll get a bit more of that this season, but that's good to know. So, obviously, where is it that you guys? Because I know, obviously, you've had a few games at Ashton Gate. Where are we going on Sunday? Any little sort of nice things to mention about that? Is it a good pitch or?
Yeah, so for the last better part of 10 years, the team used to play at Stoke Gifford Stadium. which is where the SGS or college is based on, where like the club's academy was originally based, and games were there for many years. And then last season, for whatever reason, the team decided to move to Tram Park in Bath, but it kind of made sense because fans couldn't go to games anyway. But now this season, with the team being back in Bristol, the team now play at the Robbins High Performance Centre, which is the new training facility that's used by the men's team and now the women's team, and also like the academy teams. And the facility only opened in March this year. And it's such a nice pitch. Like there's one stand with 500 seats or something like that, or like quite several hundred seats, and fans literally stand around all four corners, or at least three, because I think one's still closed off as like here with Red Zone. And there's like fencing for that we anyways, home fans hang up flags.
Good to see. We're trying to get you guys to do that, so that's good.
I haven't seen any away fans hang up flags yet, and of course there's parking available, and also there's a match day bus service that the club are running from Bristol City Centre to the men's stadium in South Bristol. And something else we mentioned before, Andy. So the Robbins High Performance Centre is in Fayland, which is technically in the North Somerset Council area. So it's not in the city of Bristol, but it's literally like a couple of miles away. And Stoke Gifford Stadium, where the team played before, was in the north area of Bristol. So and there's a few games where you have at Ashton Gate, but that's for like Women's Football Weekend or International Women's Day or one-off games. But yeah, so even though we actually play in Bristol, we don't actually play in the centre of Bristol or in the Bristol. But I think we're one of the only few teams to actually play in the town or city that they represent. Because of course, Man U play all the home games most of the home games in the league.
That's correct, which is just in Greater Manchester. So yeah, we just about get away with it that way. But again, I was going to resist the urge to say Liston United, because obviously you were saying about the bus that you from the centre of Bristol that you guys have to your high performance centre. But yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, and there's like great food and drink facilities. You can buy beer or cider or I think they have enough alcoholic options, but there's great food and drink as well. And there's opportunities to meet, talk to the players and get like a socially distanced photo or something like that. I use quotation marks because they say it, but I'm not sure if it's properly enforced. But that depends on the club, really.
Yeah,
we've come across that a few times, haven't we, Andy?
Yeah, I have to say, some of the talking points that we've had on our side, I think it's interesting how people have interpreted things differently, but hopefully we'll be able to get more interaction with the players, because I think the players want it as well. I think, when we were at Durham and we were very, very close to the pitch at Durham. Have you guys played them yet this season?
So we played them at the Robbins High Performance Centre a few weeks ago.
You haven't been up there yet?
No, so I think that game's in sometime in 2022. But
you're going to have so much fun up there.
I think I saw you. Yeah, I'm not planning on going myself, but I think DM is. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think I saw a tweet by yourselves or one of your contributors saying Durham is the only ground in the W7 Championship that doesn't allow any flags to be held up. Yeah,
that was true. It was. It's actually Durham University's. I'm going to give it its real name. I have to look away because it's got a stupid name. Health and Wellbeing Park is actually what it's called. So it's their sort of sports, you know what I mean? Their sports and science centre. But yeah, we were there, and I know that was the other group, Manchester United Women's Supporters Club, that mentioned that. But yeah, basically, they just didn't let them put up flags, and no real reason given. I think because it was possibly blocking signage or something like that. Obviously advertisements, but I think that obviously led to, I don't know if you saw the images as well of Mark with the flags around his shoulder. I think that was sort of part of that. But now I was just mentioning about Durham because obviously that's the championship team that we played this season, and you are extremely close to the pitch. When the players were doing warm-ups, literally, I mean, I started to put him on Friday because it's completely true. After the match, when Skinner was chatting to us, I could smell his aftershave. The guy was literally there. Like, I'm not even joking. And when I remember when Mary, because she obviously didn't play because it was a Conti game, she was running down the side when the match, and she actually literally said, "Well, you guys are quite close, aren't you?" Because but it was interesting because you could hear a little bit more about what the players warming up were saying and to each other and stuff like that. So it was quite interesting to get a little bit of a sort of, it was like one of those like GoPro things. It was like when they took a throw, it's like you've been on the pitch. So you probably enjoy that. But then the negatives, though, you're in Durham. With Durham.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen footage. Well, I've seen footage from like when Durham played Sunderland. I think one of the Durham players who scored the goal did a knee slide and then tripped herself up because of the pitch. I don't know if you've seen our footage.
I haven't, but I can imagine exactly. I'm just thinking about some other things that happened there as well. They had them sitting opposite, didn't we? It was an interesting evening, but yeah, we'll see if we see them again if they go up this season, as you say, or if it's going to be Liverpool or even Sheffield.
Somebody else, Andy.
Sheffield.
I mean, there was one team which a lot of people were predicting to do well was Coventry United. And yeah, they turned fully professional this season, signed a lot of ex-W7 Championship players, and yeah, they haven't even won a game. They've only drawn one game and lost 5, and the other team that's doing worse is Watford, who've lost all their games so far. But of course, Watford only came up from the National League last season, but then against Sunderland, were also the same, but they've done somewhat better.
What's the start of your squad then? Are you guys still fully professional? Are you aware, or have you had to sort of drop a bit to sort of semi-professional? Or
so, as far as I'm aware, I think the team is still fully professional. There's now more integration from the men's side. So I think there's like more of a one club mentality. Like you have, I think you have like staff and players from like one club attend the other team's games and so on. And I think you have like contributors, from both sets of the clubs. And yeah, I'm not expecting like the team to go semi-professional or to go down to semi-professional, because I think that, again, from a PR and marketing point of view, that would look really bad. But as far as I'm aware, I think the resources or the budget's still the same, but I think more is going towards the resources to make sure everyone's full time. So I think that's why we haven't. I think that's why a lot of the players we signed over the summer were free agents,
right,
or those whose contracts were up.
Yeah, I'm going to briefly move on to Amy Palmer before we go Man United Women, before my viewers kill me. Obviously, Amy Palmer, then you're club captain now, which probably surprised a few, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just, for me, there was probably 2 or 3 others you could have easily given the armband to, but what's changed in sort of her game then? Obviously, since maybe last year or previous sort of times, because obviously she was at Bristol first as sort of a kid as well. But how much has she come on, and how much has the captaincy maybe helped her either mature as a player or improve a game?
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. Like, in my opinion, I was surprised when she was announced as the club captain. But I don't know. I think that might be partly down to the fact that she was at the club for as an academy player, and then the first team, before joining you guys at United, and then went on to Sheffield United after that. But yeah, she's only like 21, I believe, or something like that. And yeah, our previous club captain, Jasmine Matthews, who was at the club across 2 different spells for many, many years, of course, left to join Liverpool to follow Matt Beard, along a few other C players who did the same thing. But yeah, I think she's taking responsibility and selling into the role very well. Like I think I shared it on Twitter today, like the clip of that free kick that against Sunderland. Was it Sunderland? Yeah. Oh yeah. Which when high up and then just ended right behind the Sunderland goalkeeper's net. And at the time, I didn't think she meant it, and apparently she said in interviews afterwards that she didn't mean it, but it was. I think the wind or the weather might have helped in that goal that day, but yeah, I think she's a good one, a good captain, and of course last season she missed about a month or 2 with like a really bad injury, which she suffered against Birmingham, but I think she's been able to recover from that. But yeah, going back to what I said earlier about being surprised at her being named captain, I think compared to other players, she's not like the most commanding, or at least doesn't give as many instructions. I think a player who does that a lot better than... I'm not saying Amy doesn't do it badly, but another player does a lot better is the Scotland international Abby Howson, who I would have assumed would have been named initially captain this season, because she, as well as scoring some great goals, Probably didn't get as many opportunities last season because Ebony Salmon was usually preferred. Abby as well is instructing the players, telling them where to go, what to do, and same for Satara Murray. Come to the team again. She's not. She could have potentially been the captain, like telling the player, like her fellow defenders where to go and adapting to, where to go, and it depends like where the ball's going to be, but yeah. So I'm trying not to waffle on, but I think Amy Palmer, captain for this season. No negatives as far as I can see, so I assume she's going to keep the armband on for this season at least. Which interesting to see what happens after that. But of course, there's the chant which I think Natalie keeps telling me: "No Palmer, no party," which I've tried to introduce to a lot of the C fans I know, but it hasn't really quite worked. And we have again, like Fran Bentley and the namesake Dan Bentley, there's also a City men's player called Casey Palmer. However, the chant for him doesn't really work for Amy Palmer because so to the tune of "I love you, baby," oh Casey Palmer, you are the love of my life, and then the second line involves doing something to my wife.
Yeah.
Or to one's wife. Yeah.
We
get the picture.
We have similar issues with some of our men's chants when we take them over to the women's side.
And I don't sing that chant anyway myself. And I'm thinking, we can do that for Amy Palmer. But
you could change it to "Be My Wife," but I don't know how well I like it either.
It's only marginally better though, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I just think it was like, people like older sort of. It'd look weird if you was like age 60, 70 singing that. But maybe we're not that one again.
and of course, like we still have like a really young squad, so singing that type of chant is very, very concerning, depending on who you are. But I think that for now, a chant we've set on for Amy Palmer is to the tune of Mamma Mia. Things, but I'm not going to sing all the way through. But it's something that DM came up with, and they get it going, and I join in because I can't think of any best chance for Amy Palmer at the moment.
Well, I'll just jump in there before we move on. I mean, it's great to hear you guys are actually, as you say, doing some chants and stuff because it's the biggest bugbear for us. I mean, we bring it for our players. Our players get obviously, all the chants from us, but we do like to get it back off other teams. I know United aren't playing you this weekend, but when we go to some clubs, and I just don't understand. I can't put my head in the mentality of fans or a fan base that doesn't chant. Because these players are putting their bodies on the line, literally, in a many case, they're wanting that atmosphere. Nobody, no little girl, little boy, when the younger goes, I want to play in silence. Everybody, wants that roar of the crowd, their own, bit of banter from the opposition, booing, that kind of thing. Everyone wants that cauldron. Nobody wants to play in the library. So it's always really great. I'm sure Matt agrees to hear when other teams are starting to pick this up because, you can do positive chanting. Obviously with United, we do take out the swear words and we do, have some really good chants in it. And obviously this season under Skinner, I think they've had a bit more scope to be open about it. So he said himself, he likes the chants. Other players have said it sticks in their head. I think Jackie Groenen, famously with the WSL promo, actually sung the Leah Galton chant, didn't she? And said it was her favourite chant. And she generally sings it to Leah when she takes the ball off her because it involves saying that she never gave the ball away. So it's just, it's lovely. It's lovely to hear that really from yourselves.
Of course, thank you very much, Andy. And of course, I didn't know the chants were a thing until I went to a game myself properly a couple of years ago, and I saw other fans were singing, and then. I joined in, and then, but of course, this season we've had to create a lot of new chants because, again, pretty much our entire squad left last season or aren't at the club anymore. But I agree with what you're saying, Andy, about the chants, from like between both sets of supporters. Because when a few of us went up to Liverpool a few weeks ago, we were the only Bristol City fans there, probably apart from like the players' parents. And we were like singing back and forth between some of the Liverpool fans and our last away game was in the league was against Charlton, and none of us could go up because of the fuel crisis at the time, and also there was roadworks on the M25 and M4 motorways, and there was one person that we knew who went, and of course he was by himself, so he wasn't going to sing chants by himself, and it's something that we're looking forward to doing at home and away this season. Assuming
great
we
to hear.
get as many games, yeah.
I
Actually, sorry.
No, go on.
And I was to say, so of course, like player chance and so on, like, but one thing I will comment on, based on what I saw from when you guys played City at LS3 a few weeks ago, I did hear some boos for Alex Greenwood, which I'm guessing was purely banter and just the whole pantomime thing. Ex-United player goes to City, like. I mean,
You put me in the public relations role here now. No, it's yeah. I mean, to be honest, like I'll use an example of refs, right? Like most ex-refs have said, that part of the challenge of refereeing is having a cauldron, being sort of booed a little bit and that kind of stuff. I think with opposition players as well, I think part of it is about silencing the crowd, isn't it? If she smashed one in against City, that's like her telling us, you know, there's part of it, isn't it? And it's just part of the drama. And I know that for other players and other teams, you know, after the match, you know, even when we have booed specific players, like, you know, some Arsenal players and such, like, you know, like I remember at Chelsea as well. One of the I think we were giving it to Carly Telford, calling it England's number 5. And after the match, she was like, "Oh, happy? Oh, you're all right. You're gonna shut up at some." You know, she was bantering back and she was chatting a bit. And I don't think they see it personally. And you know, and I know obviously you should say some people have seen it in a different way from booing, but you know, if you think booing's abuse, then wait till you got a panto, mate. You're going to be shocked to death at Christmas. So
yeah. I mean, I think the only chance like we as Bristol City fans do to former players is you're a vixen in disguise. But yeah, that's all we usually do.
No, and obviously there's an element to that. She was our captain as well, of course. So that is an element of, you know, you kind of would expect not really that somebody would leave if they were the captain and then very quickly end up playing for you, essentially a bit as rival. But yeah, I'm pretty confident that she'd be fine with that. She was fine with that. And to be honest, if you look at some of the slow-mos, she was definitely giving it to some of our players in a different way as well. So I think she can look after herself, to be honest, Alex Greenwood.
That's fine. Okay, well, thanks for answering that. As you were, Matt. Yeah, I think you were saying something before.
No, I was just going to get a quick score prediction before the last 10 minutes on Man United. Just to answer John's. I know he says who's going to win, but obviously you're going to go Bristol. So give us a score prediction for Sunday.
Oh, so I don't quite remember how Shahan Miah are doing, but I'm just going to say 2-1 to Bristol City. Yeah, I
Andy,
I think.
One?
What was that?
Sorry, have you got a score prediction, Andy?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm looking at a Bristol guy now. I think Sheffield might take you 2-0. I mean, obviously, I should be really rooting for you guys because obviously I want our keeper to do well in a way with Fran Bentley, but we've also got Tara Bourne, and if she plays, then if you can get more goals, then that'd be great because I'm basically the person on our channel that are like, we need more strikers, we need more goals. So if we can get her on a nice little run, that'll be good for us.
Has she ever played in the United first team before?
Matt will probably answer that. I don't think so.
Yeah,
is that right,
she
Matt?
came on last year.
Did she?
Burnley, it was in the cup. Do you remember we played Burnley, Andy, at their place?
Yeah.
Came on for 23, 24 minutes. Yeah, good player. So again, you know, talking youth before, it's another one we've loaned out, and it's about time we started loaning players out. Really, I think Maria Edwards is a little bit hard done by at the minute because she's scoring like 4 and 5 goals every week. It's not doing her any favors in the development squad. But I'll move on, Andy. I'll let you talk about our season so far for Man United, and you can sort of give your thoughts on how we've done under Skinner at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was that debate, wasn't there, when Skinner came along? You know, some people wanted a different name, people with a bit more of a pedigree or whatever. I actually think Skinner's done quite well. I think the main benefit about Skinner, maybe similar to what you're saying about your squad, he's very good at bringing youth through and adding value to players. And I think obviously we're seeing the benefit of that. Obviously started with Casey, with people like Ella Toon, who, you know, has gone from essentially being a sub player to now almost a nailed on starter for England. When you look at a sort of season 1 to now. And I think, you know, we've got a lot of slow burners in our squad as well that again have the potential under Skinner to come up and really shine. I think obviously the big issue that we had was that loss against Chelsea, because one of the things that we had avoided up until then was being blown out by anybody. We'd lost games, but we were never lost by big numbers. And obviously 6-1 was a very tough one to take. Obviously I was joking about before saying that a lot of people are depressed because of the men's result last night. Well, obviously I was pretty down for a couple of days because I was at LSV when Chelsea beat us. I think that we're a bit weak in attack, so I'm hoping we'll strengthen in January. But I do think hopefully we're going to get third. A lot is going to depend on the next month in November. Obviously, we've been away at Spurs, and then we've got Everton away, and then a Conti Cup game against City, and then Arsenal. So, you don't really get a much harder run-in than that. But I think City definitely are right for the taking at the minute, if you consider them as a team that would have been nailed in as third spot. So I think essentially we're almost in a situation where there's now a playoff with the rest of the league about who's going to get the third position. And I would hope it's us. As I say, as long as I'd like to see, and I'm Matt's view on this as well, but I mean, the big issue is our strikers. So I'd like to see, Katie Zellum was scoring in pre-season. I'd like to see her start doing it in season. That'd be nice. A little bit more. And I think we need to start basically getting some more goals, really, even when we are beating another team, a lower team, because we need a better goal difference for when it gets tight at the end of the season.
Yeah, spot on. I'd agree. I'm going to pass over to Shahan then. Obviously, what does it look like for you from an outsider's point of view then? Do you think top three is a possibility, or do you just think maybe you build under Skinner and sort of see where it takes us?
Well, first of all, I gotta say I'm enjoying the WSL a lot more as a neutral this season, and not having to worry about how many goals on my team going to lose by every week. But yeah, it's great to see the WSL get more exposure, get more coverage, and I'm hoping other leagues would get similar or at least the same as well. But yeah, it's interesting to see what's happening with the WSL. I really think I don't think United will win the title this season. Sorry to your listeners about that. But yeah, I do think there will be like a top three push. Like at the moment, Spurs are third. I don't know how, considering that like mid-table borderline relegation.
It's all right. We'll sort them out in November. It's fine.
But and of course, Man City. I just have to look again because I can't believe it. Yeah, they're ninth for the moment. And I'm not sure, how long that's going to continue for. Like whether Gareth Taylor is still going to be manager there for much longer. Of course, Willie Kirk. I don't know whether he got sacked or he left by mutual consent.
6 of 1.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, I think United. I think this season, I think might be like a bit of a rebuild for season for United because, as far as I'm aware, this is like since the team has reformed. You've only ever had one manager, I believe. That's Casey Stoney.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know how long Mark Skinner is at the club. I assume he was on a 3-year contract, I believe, or.
But did it get announced? I can't even remember. Did they announce how many years he's got?
I think they said 2 with an option. So we've got this year, next year, and potential for a third.
Yeah, and I think United would do well, and I'm curious to see what will happen in January in the transfer window, like whether they'll bring you guys will bring in some players or who may go. I'm looking for more entertaining fixtures. I've seen from the latest TV picks for the WSL, like United have got quite a lot compared to like other teams, I believe.
We bring it. That's the thing. No, I mean it's it's true. No, it's true. I mean, I think we've always used to say as a fan base, and I think there's a lot of fun. There's a reason why Sky launched their WSL coverage with us on a Friday night because they knew what they were going to get from our fan base, and I think obviously that's why Skinner mentions it. With the Red Wave, the Energize. He probably have a new one. He's probably sitting there now with a little notepad trying to work out the next metaphor he's going to use for November.
I don't know if it was mentioned. Sorry, I don't know if it was mentioned before previously on your episodes, but the Derby game, a couple of weeks ago, it was during an international break in the Premier League. I'm surprised the game wasn't at Old Trafford. Or do you think it was better? It was at LS3.
You had the Rugby League final. It was at Old Trafford. So
I see.
Super League. I mean, we hope it could happen this season, obviously, but we've already played some of the bigger teams already. We've still got Arsenal, so you never know. Hopefully, we might do that. But yeah, no, I would think I would think without the rugby, because obviously it's the rugby league final, wasn't it, that weekend? Without that, maybe they would have looked at it. It just depends, because obviously I know we've had a lot of, people say, well, City have done the Etihad, the Etihad, but that has a much lower capacity at Old Trafford. Now they got 30-odd thousand in there, which is great, but 30-odd thousand in Old Trafford is just under half full, whereas 30-odd thousand at City look like it made sense.
Yeah,
but I do understand why we've held off a little bit, and we have got a strong ground at Lee. That is a nice ground, and I think one of the things you might not notice, because you say you dip in and out, you're not a United fan, obviously, is that we are building slowly more and more people like coming in each week. And the interesting thing about City, I'm sure Matt noticed this, was that they opened up the far side stand for one of the first times, didn't they? And that was kind of an interesting sign, because once we start filling that, or going at least towards halfway line on that second stand, then I think you might get a situation where we'll do a bit more at Old Trafford or stuff like that.
Okay, no, I agree. I'm not a fan of it, to be fair, playing in men's grounds. I totally agree with you, Andy. I just think let's fill Lee. We've got a 12,000 seater stadium. We can't even fill that yet. So let's just take it a step at a time, because I think what annoyed me was when we went to Leicester at the King Power, obviously you lot were all in the corner, you couldn't hear anything. And yet, if you look at the videos online that people took that were in that corner, it's very, very loud. But yet, a little bit closer towards the halfway line where I was, you couldn't hear anything. And I think that's just because of the way it is. Because obviously there's I think it was 4,000, wasn't there, at Leicester? And it holds 30, 35. Your noise just evaporates. It needs to be full. So I think in terms of Old Trafford, I think we'd be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I know we did it behind closed doors, which didn't massively matter because there was no fans. But I wouldn't want to see Old Trafford unless at least the whole bottom tier was full of all four stands, because I still think even that wouldn't be, massively viable. But yeah, we'll see.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for answering my questions. And yeah, I've got to say, Andy, I completely forgot about the Super League Grand Final. Again, I'm showing my ignorance as someone from the south of England.
It's rugby union land down there, isn't it?
Yeah.
You guys forget that there's another code. No, it's fine. I'm actually not a rugby league fan. I actually like union, if anything. So I'm probably a bit wrong in the country here, but but no, I just echo what Matt said. I mean, it is a great stadium that we've got. We just wish it was in a slightly better place. It is quite far from Manchester, but I think we've always had good feedback, and it is an interesting trade-off that you have with the Prem grounds, because I don't know if it's because we've done a few Prem grounds previously, but both at Leicester and technically in Birmingham until he moved us, we've been sort of shoved in the corner. Almost maybe that's because they know what we are. They literally shoved us in the corner. And it's a bit of a weird way to watch a match. You sort of get a lot sort of up for 45 minutes, and then you kind of need binoculars for the second half. No. So I think if you're going to use men's grounds, I much prefer, like Matt was saying, doing all round, on one tier. But what I think seems to have been happening, maybe it's because of stewarding and it's cheaper, is that people are opening one tier fully, so you end up with sort of one level of noise and one big stand up open, that's it, and then they'd have to slowly. So when doing it that way, it's making it a lot harder to fill it, and it's a lot harder to make noise as well, which obviously is what we try and do. I
mean, that's what we do at Ashton Gate for whenever the women play there. That we have one stand open, and it's usually the lowest section, which can hold a few thousand or 3,000 or 4,000. But of course, Ashton Gate recently got, over the last few years, it got redeveloped into a 27,000 capacity, whereas before it was 10, 15,000. So had that redevelopment not happened and the women's games were there, then again would have felt more full. But so I just want to say something quickly before about the Women's High Performance Centre this Sunday. Of course, because there's one stand, or with seats, again, there's no seat reservation. So if any of you guys are come down this Sunday, did buy tickets, there's no seat reservation. You can stay wherever or stay wherever you want, and it's probably and of course you can buy tickets on the day and pay for parking on the day, but it probably would be cheaper. You'd save a couple of quid if you were to book in advance, but again, that's up to you guys, really. Yeah, no, we don't really sit, do we, Matt? That's the thing, but we'll definitely find somewhere to stand. That's a different story.
Depends on the rules, doesn't it? For how many per row, can you sit? Can you stand? Can you cheer? Can you not? yeah, who knows? But yeah, we'll go with whichever. I'm actually off somewhere else, so I don't even know why I'm on about Bristol, but never mind. But I'm sure they'll have a great time down there. Anyway, it looks a really nice little ground. So yeah, we've come to the end of the show. Time flies when you're having fun, as they say. So thank you to you both for joining, and it's been a pleasure to chat. And obviously, as always, Shahan, you're welcome back on. And hopefully, next time we're back on, Bristol are fighting for promotion at the top end, and everyone's a winner. So we'll see. Obviously, my show's tomorrow. Sadly, we're not live due to guest commitments, but we do still have a great show. We've got a big announcement in 10 minutes time, actually. So keep an eye on our socials for that. And yeah, we will see you all soon. Cheers, guys.
Thanks. Goodbye.